The massive crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the mahogany table as Lady Margaret Thornton nervously adjusted her pearl necklace. It was 1982, and she had just married into one of Europe's oldest royal families. Tonight would be her first formal dinner at the palace, and, despite weeks of preparation with an etiquette coach, her hands trembled as she reached for what she assumed was her water glass. The sharp intake of breath from the elderly Duchess sitting across from her made Margaret freeze. She had reached for the wrong glass. In the complex world of royal dining, even something as simple as choosing which crystal vessel to drink from carried profound meaning. The glass she had nearly touched belonged to the gentleman seated to her right, and her mistake would have suggested either complete ignorance of proper protocol or, worse, an intentional slight against established hierarchy. Margaret's husband, Prince Andreas, gave her an almost imperceptible nod toward the correct glass, positioned precisely 2 inches to the right of her dinner plate. This small gesture saved her from what could have been a diplomatic catastrophe. In royal households, the arrangement of glassware follows an ancient system that reflects not just practicality, but the fundamental structure of power itself. The water glass always sits directly above the dinner knife, while wine glasses are positioned in order of service from right to left. This seemingly simple arrangement carries deep significance. The person who understands these placements demonstrates their worthiness to sit at the royal table. Those who fumble with the basics mark themselves as outsiders, regardless of their titles or bloodlines. But the complexity extends far beyond mere glass placement. Every element of the royal dining experience serves multiple purposes, creating layers of meaning that would be invisible to casual observers. The selection of silverware, for instance, operates according to rules so intricate that even experienced courtiers sometimes struggle to navigate them correctly. Prince Andreas had grown up with these expectations, watching his mother demonstrate the proper way to hold a soup spoon during countless childhood meals. The spoon must be held like a pencil, never gripped in the fist like a common laborer might hold a tool. The bowl of the spoon should tilt away from the diner, allowing the soup to be sipped from the side rather than the tip. This technique prevents any unseemly slurping sounds while also ensuring that drops cannot fall onto one's clothing or the table linens. The reasoning behind this particular rule traces back centuries to a time when royal meals served as public demonstrations of refinement and self-control. A monarch who could not properly manage a simple spoon of soup might be seen as lacking the delicate touch required to govern a nation. These dining rituals became tests of character, ways of measuring a person's ability to master themselves under pressure. For Lady Margaret, learning these rules felt like studying a foreign language where every word carried the potential for misunderstanding. Her etiquette instructor, Mrs. Pemberton, had spent hours explaining the significance of bread plate positioning. The small plate to the left of the main setting was not merely a convenient place to rest one's roll. Its use reflected understanding of spatial hierarchy and respect for shared dining space. Breaking bread required its own careful choreography. One never cut bread with a knife, as this suggested the bread was too tough or poorly prepared, reflecting badly on the royal kitchen staff. Instead, bread must be torn into bite-sized pieces using only the hands, each piece buttered individually rather than buttering the entire roll at once. This practice demonstrated patience and mindfulness, qualities expected of anyone worthy of royal company. The temperature of the food presented its own challenges. Royal meals often moved slowly through multiple courses, with extensive conversation between each serving. Hot dishes might cool considerably before they could be consumed, but complaining about food temperature was absolutely forbidden. Instead, diners were expected to maintain pleasant conversation while gracefully consuming whatever was placed before them, regardless of its condition. Prince Andreas remembered one particularly challenging evening when a visiting dignitary made the mistake of asking for salt before tasting his meal. The request implied that the royal chef had failed to properly season the dish, creating an insult that rippled through the kitchen staff and required a private apology the following day. The dignitary had no idea that his simple request had caused such offense, illustrating how easily cultural misunderstandings could develop around the royal dining table. These protocols extended to the pace of eating itself. No one could begin eating until the highest-ranking person at the table had taken their first bite. Similarly, when that same person finished eating, everyone else was expected to set down their utensils immediately, regardless of how much food remained on their plates. This rule had led to some hungry evenings when visiting dignitaries ate particularly slowly or when elder royals lost their appetites midway through a course. Lady Margaret discovered this rule during her third week at the palace when she continued eating after the Queen Mother had finished her main course. The gentle pressure of her husband's hand on her arm alerted her to the mistake, but not before several other diners had noticed her breach of protocol. The incident became a teaching moment, reminding her that royal dining was never really about the food itself. The placement of utensils throughout the meal communicated constantly with the serving staff. Resting a knife and fork in the 4 o'clock position on one's plate signaled that the course was finished and could be cleared away. Placing utensils parallel to each other in the center of the plate indicated temporary pause, suggesting that the diner intended to continue eating and the plate should remain untouched. These signals had developed over centuries of formal dining, creating a silent language between diners and servants that allowed meals to flow smoothly without the need for verbal communication. The system worked beautifully when everyone understood the codes, but could create confusion and embarrassment when visitors were unfamiliar with the protocols. The complexity reached its peak during state dinners, where representatives from different cultures brought their own dining traditions into contact with royal expectations. Diplomatic incidents could develop over seemingly minor issues like the proper way to eat rice or the acceptable method for consuming fish. Palace protocol officers spent considerable time briefing foreign guests on British royal dining customs while also researching the food traditions of visiting nations to avoid accidental offense. One famous incident involved a visiting ambassador who attempted to share food from his plate with his wife, a gesture considered romantic in his home culture but deeply inappropriate in the formal royal setting. The breach of protocol required careful diplomatic handling to prevent it from affecting broader international relations. For those born into royal families, these rules became second nature through constant repetition and correction. But, for those who married into royalty, like Lady Margaret, the learning process could feel overwhelming. Every meal became a test, every social gathering an opportunity for success or failure. The stakes were particularly high because dining etiquette served as a visible marker of one's fitness for royal life. Members of the press and royal watchers scrutinized public dining appearances for signs of proper training and cultural integration. A photograph of a royal family member holding their fork incorrectly could generate weeks of negative commentary about their suitability for their position. Yet beneath all these elaborate rules lay deeper truths about human nature and social organization. The protocols served practical purposes, creating predictable frameworks for complex social interactions. They also established clear hierarchies and demonstrated respect for tradition and continuity. Most importantly, they created shared experiences that bound royal families together across generations, providing common ground between individuals who might otherwise have little in common besides their bloodlines. As Lady Margaret gradually mastered these intricate rules, she began to understand that royal dining etiquette was never really about the food, the silverware, or even the rules themselves. It was about something far more fundamental, the delicate art of living gracefully under constant scrutiny while honoring the weight of centuries-old traditions. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Windsor Castle as Princess Diana sat at her dressing table, preparing for what would become one of the most scrutinized breakfast meetings in royal history. It was 1983, and she was still adjusting to life under the constant gaze of both palace protocol officers and the international media. Every public appearance, including this seemingly simple charity breakfast, would be analyzed for signs of her growing confidence as a royal family member. Diana had spent the previous evening reviewing proper procedures for eating various breakfast foods with her private secretary. The challenges seemed endless. Eggs required specific techniques depending on their preparation. Soft-boiled eggs must be eaten from the shell using only a teaspoon, never cracked open and poured onto toast as might happen in an ordinary household. The top of the shell should be carefully removed with gentle tapping, creating a clean opening without scattered pieces that might suggest clumsiness or haste. Fresh fruit presented its own complications. Oranges could never be peeled by hand, as this would leave residue on the fingers and create an undignified spectacle. Instead, they must be carefully sectioned using a fruit knife and fork, with each segment lifted delicately to the mouth. Bananas required even more elaborate preparation, sliced into rounds and eaten with a fork rather than simply peeled and bitten. These rules might seem excessive to outside observers, but they served important purposes in maintaining royal dignity during public appearances. The breakfast meeting itself was being held to support a children's literacy program, bringing together various charitable organizations with members of the royal family. Diana understood that her behavior during the meal would be reported in newspapers around the world, potentially influencing public perception of both her personal character and the royal family's commitment to their charitable duties. As guests began arriving at the private dining room, Diana noticed the careful attention paid to seating arrangements. Royal protocol dictated that no guest should be seated with their back to a member of the royal family, ensuring that conversations could flow naturally while maintaining appropriate deference. The placement of each chair had been measured precisely to allow adequate space for movement while preventing any accidental bumping or crowding that might appear undignified in photographs. The table settings themselves told a story of centuries-old tradition meeting modern necessity. Each place setting included multiple forks, knives, and spoons arranged according to the order of their intended use. The complexity of the arrangement served multiple purposes. It demonstrated the sophistication of royal hospitality while also testing the cultural knowledge of guests. Those who understood the proper sequence of utensil use marked themselves as worthy of inclusion in royal circles. Diana had learned that conversation during royal meals followed its own intricate rules. Topics considered appropriate for breakfast differed significantly from those suitable for dinner parties. Morning discussions should focus on lighter subjects, upcoming events, charitable work, or cultural activities. Political topics, personal conflicts, or business matters were strictly forbidden during the first meal of the day, as they might disturb the peaceful atmosphere that royals were expected to maintain. The rhythm of conversation also required careful management. Royal family members were trained never to monopolize discussions or allow uncomfortable silences to develop. They learned to ask thoughtful questions that would draw out their guests while avoiding topics that might prove embarrassing or controversial. This skill proved particularly valuable during charitable events, where conversations needed to remain uplifting and focused on positive outcomes. Diana discovered that even the simple act of adding sugar to tea carried symbolic weight. Lumps of sugar should be selected using special tongs, never touched directly with the fingers. The number of lumps chosen could indicate refinement or excess, depending on cultural context. Some guests might interpret multiple lumps of sugar as a sign of sophisticated taste, while others might view it as evidence of poor self-control or lack of awareness about healthy eating habits. The timing of various breakfast activities required precise coordination. Toast should be buttered one bite at a time, never prepared completely in advance. Jam or marmalade must be transferred from communal containers to individual plates using designated serving spoons, never applied directly from the jar to the bread. These practices prevented any contamination of shared food items while also demonstrating consideration for other diners. Coffee service presented particular challenges during formal royal breakfasts. The proper method for drinking coffee involved holding the cup and saucer together until ready to drink, then lifting only the cup to the lips. The saucer should never be raised above chest level, and the cup should be returned to its saucer between each sip. Stirring required gentle circular motions without allowing the spoon to touch the sides of the cup, preventing any clinking sounds that might disrupt conversation. Diana learned that royal breakfasts often served as informal diplomatic occasions where important relationships could be strengthened through carefully orchestrated social interactions. Foreign dignitaries frequently attended these events, bringing their own cultural expectations about appropriate breakfast behavior. Palace staff studied international dining customs extensively to avoid accidentally offering foods or drinks that might violate religious restrictions or cultural taboos. One memorable incident during Diana's early royal years involved a visiting diplomat who was unfamiliar with British breakfast traditions. He attempted to eat his kipper with his hands, not understanding that smoked fish required special knives and forks to remove bones properly. Diana's graceful intervention, quietly demonstrating the proper technique while maintaining pleasant conversation, helped avoid what could have been an embarrassing situation for their guest. The management of breakfast timing presented ongoing challenges for royal households. Unlike ordinary families who might eat quickly before rushing off to work or school, royal breakfasts needed to accommodate the complex schedules of multiple family members while also allowing adequate time for meaningful conversation with guests. Meals often lasted 90 minutes or more, requiring careful planning to ensure that all participants could fulfill their other obligations throughout the day. Staff members played crucial roles in maintaining the smooth flow of royal breakfasts. Footmen were trained to anticipate needs without being asked, refilling water glasses and coffee cups while remaining virtually invisible to the diners. They learned to read subtle signals from royal family members, understanding when additional food should be offered and when plates could be cleared away. This silent communication allowed meals to proceed without interruption while maintaining the illusion of effortless hospitality. The choice of breakfast foods reflected careful consideration of both nutritional requirements and cultural expectations. Traditional British items like kippers, black pudding, and grilled tomatoes appeared regularly, but royal kitchens also accommodated international preferences when hosting foreign guests. Dietary restrictions required special attention, with kosher and halal options prepared in separate kitchen areas to prevent contamination. Diana discovered that royal breakfast conversation often included discussions of the day's schedule, allowing family members to coordinate their public appearances and charitable activities. These planning sessions required diplomatic skill, as conflicts between different royal households needed to be resolved without creating friction that might affect their public image. The breakfast table became an informal meeting space where important decisions could be made in a relaxed atmosphere. The educational aspect of royal breakfast etiquette extended beyond immediate family members to include household staff and frequent guests. New employees received extensive training in proper serving techniques and appropriate conversation topics. Regular visitors gradually learned the unspoken rules through careful observation and gentle correction, eventually becoming part of the extended royal community that helped maintain these traditions. Photography during royal breakfast events required special protocols to protect both the dignity of the diners and the privacy of their conversations. Official photographers learned to capture images that showed appropriate etiquette while avoiding any shots that might appear undignified or reveal sensitive information. The resulting photographs served important public relations purposes, demonstrating the royal family's commitment to their charitable work while reinforcing their image as cultured and sophisticated leaders. For Diana, mastering breakfast etiquette became part of her broader education in royal life. Each successful meal built her confidence and demonstrated her growing mastery of the complex social skills required for her position. The seemingly simple act of sharing breakfast with charitable supporters became an opportunity to strengthen important relationships while advancing causes she cared deeply about. The lasting impact of proper breakfast etiquette extended far beyond the immediate meal. Guests who felt welcomed and respected during these intimate gatherings became lifelong supporters of royal charitable initiatives. The careful attention to protocol and hospitality created positive associations that influenced public perception of the royal family for years to come. The ornate grandfather clock in the corner of Buckingham Palace's blue drawing room chimed precisely at 1 o'clock as Queen Elizabeth II entered for what appeared to be a simple family lunch. However, this particular gathering in 1997 would become a turning point in royal dining tradition, challenging centuries-old protocols while maintaining the essential dignity that defined royal life. The occasion marked the first time that several newly divorced royal family members would dine together formally, requiring careful navigation of both personal emotions and public expectations. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, had been separated from Prince Andrew for 5 years, but palace protocol still required her presence at significant family gatherings. She approached the lunch with considerable anxiety, knowing that every gesture would be scrutinized for signs of her continued acceptance within the royal circle. Her relationship with traditional dining etiquette had always been somewhat rebellious, and today would test whether personal authenticity could coexist with royal expectations. The challenge began with the simple question of seating arrangements. Traditional protocol placed divorced or separated spouses according to their original marriage positions, but this created uncomfortable proximity between individuals whose relationships had become strained. The Queen's private secretary had spent weeks developing a seating plan that honored hierarchy while minimizing potential conflict. The solution involved subtle adjustments that maintained protocol while acknowledging changed circumstances. Sarah noticed immediately that the usual array of crystal glasses had been reduced slightly, eliminating the champagne flute that typically accompanied formal royal lunches. This small change reflected the more subdued nature of the gathering while avoiding any appearance of celebration that might seem inappropriate given recent family difficulties. Such attention to detail demonstrated how royal households adapted traditional elements to match contemporary circumstances. Prince Charles arrived precisely on time, his posture and expression revealing nothing of the personal turmoil that had dominated newspaper headlines for months. His recent divorce from Princess Diana had created unprecedented challenges for royal dining protocol, as both individuals remained integral to royal family functions despite their changed relationship status. The prince had mastered the art of compartmentalizing personal feelings during public appearances, a skill essential for maintaining royal dignity under pressure. The menu selection reflected careful consideration of both nutritional requirements and symbolic meanings. Light salads with seasonal vegetables suggested renewal and fresh beginnings, while traditional British elements like roasted lamb connected the meal to established royal preferences. The kitchen staff had prepared multiple options for each course, allowing individual preferences to be accommodated without requiring special requests that might create awkwardness. Queen Elizabeth demonstrated her mastery of diplomatic dining by engaging each family member in conversation topics that avoided sensitive areas while maintaining genuine warmth. Her questions about charitable work, travel plans, and cultural interests created safe ground for discussion while subtly reinforcing the family's commitment to their public duties. This skill had been refined over decades of navigating complex family dynamics during formal occasions. The service style had been adjusted to accommodate the smaller, more intimate gathering. Instead of the elaborate procession of footmen typically required for state dinners, a reduced staff served quietly and efficiently, allowing conversation to flow more naturally. This modification demonstrated how royal households could adapt their procedures while maintaining essential standards of hospitality and dignity. Sarah discovered that her previous struggles with formal dining etiquette had actually prepared her well for this more relaxed atmosphere. The pressure to perform perfect protocol was reduced, allowing her natural warmth and humor to emerge in ways that strengthened rather than threatened her position within the family. Her genuine engagement with the conversation topics chosen by the Queen helped create a more comfortable atmosphere for all participants. The wine selection reflected both tradition and innovation, featuring bottles from the royal cellars alongside newer vintages that represented contemporary British winemaking. This combination honored established preferences while demonstrating openness to change and growth. The careful pairing of wines with each course showed respect for culinary tradition while accommodating evolving tastes within the family. Midway through the meal, an unexpected moment occurred that would be remembered by all present. Princess Anne made a light-hearted comment about the complexity of royal seating arrangements, prompting genuine laughter from the entire table. This spontaneous moment of humor broke through the formal atmosphere, creating authentic connection between family members who had been struggling to maintain relationships under intense public scrutiny. The Queen's response to this moment demonstrated her remarkable ability to balance tradition with human authenticity. Rather than redirecting the conversation back to safer topics, she allowed the laughter to continue and even added her own gentle humor about the challenges of managing large family gatherings. This flexibility showed how effective royal leadership could adapt to circumstances while maintaining essential dignity. Prince Edward, who had often felt overshadowed by his older siblings' dramatic personal lives, found himself playing an important role as a stabilizing presence during the lunch. His comfortable navigation of both formal protocol and family dynamics helped bridge gaps between different generations and personalities around the table. His contribution illustrated how each royal family member could serve unique functions during challenging periods. The handling of dietary restrictions during this lunch established new precedents for future royal dining. Several family members had developed specific nutritional requirements due to health concerns or personal choices, requiring the kitchen staff to demonstrate exceptional flexibility while maintaining the visual appeal and symbolic importance of shared meals. The successful accommodation of these needs without creating awkwardness or special attention showed how tradition could evolve to meet changing circumstances. Conversation during the meal touched carefully on topics that would help rebuild family connections while avoiding areas that might cause renewed conflict. Discussions of grandchildren's activities, upcoming royal events, and shared memories from happier times created common ground where healing relationships could begin to develop. The Queen's subtle guidance of these conversations demonstrated masterful social leadership during a difficult period. The pace of the meal allowed adequate time for meaningful interaction without creating the marathon endurance test that formal state dinners could become. Each course was served with appropriate timing to support conversation while ensuring that food remained at proper temperature and presentation. This balance between efficiency and luxury showed how royal dining could be adapted to serve different purposes while maintaining essential standards. Photography was strictly limited during this gathering, allowing family members to interact more naturally without concern about how their expressions or gestures might be interpreted by the media. This privacy created space for authentic healing and relationship building that would have been impossible under normal public scrutiny. The decision to limit documentation showed how royal households could protect family interests while maintaining transparency about their general activities. As the meal concluded, the traditional protocols for ending formal dining were followed with slight modifications that acknowledged the changed circumstances of the participants. The Queen's signal for the meal's conclusion came slightly earlier than usual, recognizing that extended formal interaction might become stressful for family members still adjusting to their altered relationships. The success of this lunch created new models for how royal families could maintain traditions while adapting to contemporary challenges. The balance achieved between formal protocol and human authenticity provided a template for future gatherings that honored both heritage and personal needs. The lessons learned during this meal would influence royal dining practices for years to come. For Sarah Ferguson, the experience demonstrated that her place within the royal family could survive personal difficulties if she remained committed to the values and standards that defined royal life. Her successful navigation of this challenging meal helped rebuild confidence in her ability to contribute positively to family gatherings while maintaining her individual personality and perspectives. The lasting impact of this lunch extended beyond the immediate family relationships to influence broader public perception of how royal families could handle personal difficulties with grace and dignity. The careful balance between tradition and adaptation provided a model for maintaining institutional stability while acknowledging human complexity and change. The massive ballroom at Buckingham Palace had been transformed into an elegant dining space for one of the most ambitious state dinners in recent memory. In 2009, President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama were arriving for their first official visit to the United Kingdom, and every detail of the evening's dinner would be scrutinized by international media as a symbol of diplomatic relations between two crucial allied nations. The pressure on palace staff was immense, as any breach of protocol could create lasting diplomatic consequences. Lord Chamberlain Sir Michael Peat had spent months preparing for this evening, coordinating with American diplomatic staff to ensure that every aspect of the dinner would honor both British royal traditions and American cultural expectations. The guest list included 170 individuals representing the highest levels of government, business, and cultural leadership from both countries. Each person's dietary restrictions, cultural background, and diplomatic significance had been carefully considered in developing the evening's protocols. The challenge of creating appropriate seating arrangements for such a diverse and distinguished group had required unprecedented attention to diplomatic hierarchy. Traditional royal dining protocols needed to accommodate American expectations about gender equality, religious diversity, and cultural sensitivity. The final seating plan represented a masterpiece of diplomatic choreography that honored both nations' values while maintaining the essential structure required for successful formal dining. Michelle Obama had worked extensively with her protocol team to understand British royal dining expectations while maintaining her own authentic personal style. Her background as a successful professional woman and her experience hosting elegant events at the White House provided excellent preparation, but the specific requirements of royal dining presented unique challenges that required careful study and practice. The menu selection reflected months of negotiation between royal chefs and American dietary advisors. Traditional British dishes needed to be prepared in ways that would appeal to international palates while accommodating various religious and health restrictions among the guests. The final menu featured innovative interpretations of classic recipes that honored culinary traditions while demonstrating contemporary British cooking excellence. President Obama's arrival at the palace marked the beginning of a carefully choreographed sequence of events that would test every aspect of royal hospitality protocols. His greeting by Queen Elizabeth II followed traditions established over centuries, but the informal warmth of both leaders created opportunities for genuine personal connection within the formal structure of state visit requirements. The pre-dinner reception allowed guests to mingle informally while palace staff made final preparations for the elaborate dining service. This period required careful management to ensure that conversations remained appropriate for the diplomatic context while allowing the natural personalities of the participants to emerge. The Queen's skill at facilitating meaningful conversations between diverse groups of people was essential for creating a welcoming atmosphere. As guests moved into the dining room, the visual impact of the table setting created immediate appreciation for the artistry and attention to detail that defined royal hospitality. Over 2,000 pieces of silverware, crystal, and china had been arranged according to precise specifications that balanced aesthetic beauty with functional requirements for efficient service. The golden candelabras and floral arrangements created an atmosphere of elegant magnificence that impressed even the most sophisticated international visitors. The service began with a demonstration of the coordination required for large-scale royal dining. Teams of footmen moved in perfect synchronization to serve each course simultaneously to all 170 guests, ensuring that no one waited while others began eating. This level of coordination required extensive rehearsal and demonstrated the professional excellence that characterized all aspects of royal household management. The first course presented an immediate test of international diplomatic dining skills. The soup course featured a traditional British recipe that had been adapted to accommodate various cultural preferences without losing its essential character. Guests from different cultural backgrounds needed to navigate unfamiliar flavors and textures while maintaining appropriate conversation and dining etiquette throughout the extended meal. President Obama's comfort with formal dining protocols became evident as he engaged naturally with fellow guests while demonstrating proper techniques for managing the complex array of silverware and glassware at each place setting. His relaxed confidence helped set a tone that allowed other guests to feel more comfortable with the elaborate requirements of royal dining etiquette. The wine service showcased selections from both British vineyards and international producers, creating opportunities for cultural exchange through appreciation of different winemaking traditions. The sommelier's presentations of each wine selection provided educational moments that enhanced guests' understanding of the careful thought that went into every aspect of the evening's hospitality. Midway through the dinner, an unexpected moment occurred that demonstrated the importance of flexibility within formal protocol. A minor accident involving spilled wine required immediate attention from the service staff without disrupting the flow of conversation or service for other guests. The seamless handling of this situation showed how experienced royal household staff could maintain elegant standards even when facing unexpected challenges. The conversation topics throughout the dinner reflected careful preparation to ensure that discussions remained engaging while avoiding controversial subjects that might create diplomatic difficulties. The Queen's mastery of international affairs allowed her to guide conversations toward areas of mutual interest and cooperation, strengthening relationships between guests from different countries and backgrounds. Michelle Obama's contributions to the dinner conversation demonstrated her ability to combine personal warmth with diplomatic sophistication. Her genuine interest in British culture and her thoughtful questions about royal traditions created opportunities for meaningful exchange while showing appropriate respect for her host's heritage and customs. The main course featured innovative preparations of traditional British ingredients that showcased contemporary culinary excellence while honoring historical food traditions. The presentation of each dish reflected artistic principles that made the meal as visually impressive as it was delicious, demonstrating how royal dining combined multiple forms of cultural expression. Entertainment during the dinner included carefully selected musical performances that represented both British and American cultural traditions. The performers had been chosen not only for their artistic excellence but also for their ability to enhance the diplomatic atmosphere of the evening while providing appropriate background for continued conversation among the guests. The handling of media coverage during the state dinner required careful balance between transparency and privacy. Selected photographers were permitted to document certain moments of the evening while respecting the need for private diplomatic conversations to occur without constant scrutiny. The resulting images would be used to communicate the success of the diplomatic visit to audiences around the world. As the evening progressed, the success of the diplomatic dining became evident in the genuine connections being formed between guests from different countries and backgrounds. The careful attention to protocol had created a framework within which authentic relationships could develop, fulfilling one of the primary purposes of state dinner diplomacy. The dessert course provided opportunities for more relaxed conversation as the formal requirements of the earlier courses had been successfully navigated. Guests could focus more fully on personal connections and cultural exchange while still maintaining the elegant atmosphere that characterized royal hospitality. The conclusion of the dinner required coordinated timing to ensure that all guests could participate appropriately in the traditional toasts and expressions of appreciation between the host and visiting nations. The Queen's toast to American friendship and President Obama's response demonstrated the successful achievement of the evening's diplomatic objectives through the medium of elegant hospitality. The lasting impact of this state dinner extended far beyond the immediate evening's success. The relationships formed and strengthened during the meal would influence diplomatic cooperation for years to come, while the demonstration of royal hospitality excellence would enhance Britain's reputation for cultural sophistication and international leadership. For the palace staff, the successful completion of such an ambitious diplomatic dining event represented the culmination of months of careful planning and the demonstration of professional skills that had been developed over generations of royal service. The evening's success validated their commitment to maintaining the highest standards of hospitality excellence while adapting to contemporary diplomatic requirements. The intimate dining room at Clarence House seemed unusually quiet on that spring evening in 2018 as 3 generations of the royal family gathered for what would become a watershed moment in the evolution of royal dining traditions. Prince Charles, Prince William, Prince Harry, and their respective spouses had come together for a private family dinner that would address growing tensions between traditional expectations and contemporary values that younger royal family members increasingly embraced. Meghan Markle, the newest member of the royal family, sat carefully observing the intricate ballet of formal service while mentally reviewing the extensive briefings she had received about proper royal dining behavior. Her background as an accomplished actress had prepared her for performing under pressure, but the subtle nuances of royal etiquette required a different kind of precision that could only be mastered through careful observation and practice. The menu for the evening had been specifically designed to bridge generational preferences within the family. Traditional dishes that Prince Charles favored were paired with contemporary preparations that appealed to younger palates, while organic and locally sourced ingredients reflected growing environmental consciousness among family members. This culinary diplomacy represented broader efforts to honor heritage while embracing necessary evolution. Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, had become a skilled mediator during family dining situations, using her natural warmth and diplomatic instincts to help navigate potentially challenging conversations. Her years of experience with royal protocol had taught her how to maintain appropriate formality while encouraging the authentic personal connections that strengthen family relationships during difficult periods. The conversation began with safe topics about charitable work and upcoming royal engagements, but gradually moved toward more sensitive discussions about how royal traditions could adapt to changing social expectations. Prince Harry had become increasingly vocal about his desire to modernize certain aspects of royal life, while his father remained committed to preserving essential elements of inherited protocol and ceremony. The wine selection reflected this generational tension, featuring both vintage selections from the royal cellars and newer sustainable wines that represented contemporary values about environmental responsibility. The symbolic significance was not lost on any of the participants, as the choice between traditional and innovative options extended far beyond beverage preferences to fundamental questions about royal identity and purpose. As the meal progressed, Prince William emerged as a thoughtful bridge between his father's traditionalist perspective and his brother's reformist impulses. His approach to royal dining etiquette demonstrated how established protocols could be maintained while allowing space for personal authenticity and individual expression within appropriate boundaries. Meghan's contributions to the dinner conversation revealed her keen understanding of how royal influence could be leveraged to address contemporary social issues while respecting institutional traditions. Her questions about the historical development of various dining customs showed genuine interest in understanding the deeper purposes behind seemingly arbitrary rules. The service style for the evening had been modified to create a more relaxed atmosphere while maintaining essential standards of royal hospitality. Fewer footmen were present, allowing for more intimate conversation, but the quality of food preparation and presentation remained at the highest levels expected for royal dining experiences. Midway through the meal, an important moment occurred when Prince Charles shared stories about his own struggles to balance personal preferences with royal expectations during his younger years. His acknowledgement that tradition must evolve to remain relevant created space for more open discussion about specific changes that might enhance rather than threaten royal dignity and effectiveness. The discussion turned to practical questions about how royal dining protocols might be adapted for different audiences and occasions. Younger family members argued that excessive formality could create barriers between the royal family and the people they served, while older generations emphasized that certain standards of behavior demonstrated respect for the institution and its historical significance. Prince Harry's perspective on royal dining etiquette reflected his military experience and his exposure to diverse communities through his charitable work. He advocated for approaches that would make royal hospitality more accessible and welcoming to people from different cultural backgrounds, while maintaining the excellence that defined royal standards. The challenge of balancing individual personality with institutional requirements became particularly evident as family members discussed their upcoming public engagements. Each person's natural communication style and personal interests needed to be expressed within appropriate frameworks that honored both their roles and their authentic selves. Catherine shared her experiences of learning to navigate royal dining expectations while maintaining connections with her own family's more casual dining traditions. Her insights helped illustrate how successful integration into royal life required finding ways to honor both inherited protocols and personal values without compromising either. The conversation also addressed practical concerns about how royal dining traditions would need to evolve to accommodate changing dietary preferences, environmental consciousness, and cultural sensitivity in an increasingly diverse society. These discussions reflected broader questions about how centuries-old institutions could remain relevant while honoring their essential purposes. Meghan's background in humanitarian work provided valuable perspectives on how royal dining occasions could be leveraged to advance important social causes while maintaining appropriate dignity and protocol. Her suggestions about incorporating educational elements into formal meals sparked interesting discussions about expanding the impact of royal hospitality beyond immediate diplomatic purposes. The wine service became an opportunity to discuss sustainable practices and ethical sourcing, demonstrating how traditional elements of royal dining could be enhanced through contemporary awareness about environmental and social responsibility. These conversations showed how royal households could lead by example while maintaining their commitment to excellence and tradition. As the evening progressed, the family reached tentative agreements about areas where royal dining protocols could be thoughtfully modified without compromising essential dignity or effectiveness. These decisions would influence royal household practices for years to come while establishing precedents for future adaptation and evolution. The handling of dietary restrictions and personal preferences during the meal provided practical examples of how royal hospitality could become more inclusive while maintaining high standards. The successful accommodation of different needs without creating special attention or awkwardness demonstrated principles that could be applied more broadly. The conversation concluded with recognition that royal dining etiquette would continue evolving as each generation brought new perspectives and priorities to their roles. The key was ensuring that changes enhanced rather than diminished the royal family's ability to serve effectively while maintaining the dignity and respect that their positions required. For Meghan, the evening represented successful navigation of complex family dynamics while contributing meaningfully to important discussions about institutional evolution. Her growing confidence with royal protocols combined with her commitment to authentic personal expression suggested positive directions for future development. The lasting impact of this family dinner extended far beyond the immediate participants to influence broader approaches to royal protocol and public engagement. The agreements reached during the meal would guide decision-making about state occasions, charitable events, and international diplomatic dining for years to come. The evening demonstrated that royal dining traditions could successfully adapt to contemporary circumstances while maintaining their essential purposes of building relationships, demonstrating respect, and creating frameworks for effective leadership. The careful balance achieved between tradition and innovation provided a model for navigating future challenges while honoring the institution's historical significance and contemporary relevance. The success of these discussions validated the importance of family communication and collaborative decision-making in managing institutional evolution. The royal family's ability to address generational differences constructively while maintaining unity and shared purpose would prove essential for their continued effectiveness and public support in a rapidly changing world.